Thank you. It is time now for our first panel, From Source to Seawater, Climate Nexus and Cooperation for Water Resilience, in which the panelists will explore how climate change impacts water systems across the entire hydrological cycle and why integrated approaches are essential for resilience. Please welcome to the stage the panelists. Mr. Mitja Britzel, Secretary at the Ministry of the Natural Resources and Special Planning of Slovenia, Coordinator of the EU Strategy for the Adriatic and Ionian region, Pillar Environment and ICPDR Ambassador. Please welcome. Madam Ambassador, Dr. Anna Polak-Petric, Ambassador of the Republic of Slovenia to Germany. Mrs. Veronika Matusna, representative of the Water Protection Department at the Ministry of the Environment of the Czech Republic. Welcome. And Dr. Tuba Evrim Madem, Policy Development Coordinator at the Turkish Water Institute, Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry of Turkey. Welcome. We have also 3 panelists joining us online. So please welcome Mrs. Munira Haji, Senior Specialist Engineer at the Ministry of Electricity and Water and Renewable Energy of Kuwait. Dr. Elnur Safarov, Caspian Sea Studies expert at IDEA Public Union, CASPISNet coordinator and head of the International Cooperation Department at the Institute of Geography, Ministry of Science and Education of Azerbaijan. And Mrs. Claudia Crosa, Director of the Directorate of Drinking Water and Sanitation at the Ministry of Public Works and Communications of Paraguay. We are honored to welcome Dr. Aleš Musar, First Gentleman of the Republic of Slovenia, as the moderator of this panel.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to the panelists. First, a brief instruction. You can see, no, you can't really see, the QR code is somewhere there. If you want to ask a question, scan the QR code, write a question. You can actually also vote on which questions will be asked, and then the question will appear here. So technology is working with us. And now let's go to the session. Encouraged by the continuation of discussions after COP29, there was a recognition that Bled Water Forum is in fact a kind of implementation forum, or a forum where solutions which are based on the policies which were recognized in COP29 can be found. We have had a lot of cross-border issues with water. I believe there are over 150 countries which share water resources, and that was complicated enough. But now the whole water cycle has changed. And the climate is directly affecting the sources of water. And I think there is no one better to provide the broadest view on this issue than Mitja Britzel. I met him for the first time, I think it was even before the Rio conference, and he was working in environment, and that was really something very exotic at that time. Even after Rio, the topic remained exotic for some time until we started to see the consequences. And speaking of consequences, Mr. Britzel, what are the mechanisms of climate affecting our water cycle and our water supply?
Thank you and good morning. First, starting with this really challenging question and reality which we are facing. Extremes floods and droughts are not anymore, in very long period or 100 years period. It's happening very frequently. On the global level, in each, let's say, climate region, and also here in Alpine, with the contact with the Mediterranean or Adriatic and Danube River Basin, we are facing these really fast changes. Now, your question is, of course, this is the result of human activities, human impacts, and we are paying now the price. That's very simple. Pressure and impacts of the human activities to the climate, to the water cycle, are measurable. And the extremes are, of course, very, I would say, concrete bills for our, let's say, not sustainable behavior in the past. I hope that we are recognizing this, and the international community, thanks, and you mentioned United Nations conference in Rio, which was in with the, I would say, really very important documents, Agenda 21, first in the history. It is still very important document which should serve national economies to change the economic activities to more sustainable, oriented to, let's say, local conditions, to respect local natural resources, where the water resources are, of course, the crucial. And this is now the process from the Rio, and this was in 1992, and we are now in 2026. Why such a delay? Maybe it's needed, or we still not believe that this is happening. I would just remind all are facing, but just in the last 3 years, we faced the first forest fires with the transboundary consequences here in Slovenia, first in the history, the largest, and 2 years ago, the largest floods in the history of Slovenia. Two extremes. Here in this lovely green country in the steppe hills of the Alps. This is here. Now, we believe, and we did from this time, as Mr. Aleš Musar mentioned, we believe that Agenda 21 is definitely the way to go, and we invested in very much in transboundary cooperation in the shared river basins and coastal and marine areas of Adriatic to establish cooperation upstream, downstream between the countries, transboundary, sub-regional, regional. I'm mentioning with this the Convention for the Protection Danube River and Convention for the Protection Mediterranean Sea and Coast, Barcelona Convention. This was really our framework to really work, not to speak, to work and to address concretely the experts and national authorities responsible for water management to find a solution, to reduce pressure and impacts, and to adapt to these fast changes which we are facing. And this, thanks to, I don't know, our, let's say, hard work, we do have quite good results, or very concrete results. I'm mentioning just a very modern and efficient SAVA flood warning system, which is first on Danube River Basin. which we are now expanding also to the component of the water scarcity and droughts and forest fires. We would like to expand it also from the Sava River Basin to the Adriatic, taking into account European processes, macro-regional strategies, you know, for the Baltic macro-regional strategies, Danube, Adriatic Ionian, and Alpine. We strongly believe that this is the way to go. Not to speak, but to do it. With whom is the question, with whom to do it? We heard today the manager of the water company, of the water supply company here in Krain, which is very important for all this part of Slovenia for the water supply. With them, with many other really important stakeholders who are daily taking care about the water resources, which we see it, but underground water resources, you cannot see it. Who taking care about this? All this together with the education, management, and then, of course, some sort of really cautiousness. We should work together and educate for that to do. I will finish with this. We are more than proud, but this is our, let's say, maybe result of our investments during long time, that we somehow succeed to bring together via Slovenian presidency of the Barcelona Convention in 2023 to 2025, the Danube, Black Sea and Mediterranean programs of 3 conventions to address source to sea approach to enhance resilience in the international river basins and the long shores and sea to enhance healthy of marine ecosystems. With this, we are going now in the end of the month to the GF Med conference in Tunis to prepare first inter-regional project to enhance resilience as an inter-regional response to the climate change challenges. And we will, I hope, bring this also to the next COP of a climate convention, which is approaching very soon. With this all, I believe, yes, we can, but with you and your colleagues, but it's not enough to speak. We have to do it, and for that, we have to do something more. It's not business as usual. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Mr. Britzel. I should be mentioning that Mr. Britzel has been at the Ministry of Natural Resources, which changed names a few times, I believe, in the last 30 years, for a very long time, and is probably our best expert on the broad topics. This panel is intended to go from the broadest to the specific solutions, but I would like to stay with the broad. You said that the climate change is human caused. And some people, or many people, it doesn't really matter, are denying that. But are we actually focusing on the right question? Does it matter if it is human caused or not? I would believe that it's more important if the remedy can be human caused. Can we do something?
Definitely. I'm very much with you. It's no need to fight, is it human or maybe not, or mixed. It's here. It's here. We can measure it and feel it. Unfortunately, the lost lives are telling us, and the huge damages of the floods and huge damages of the lost yields are here. That's reality. Now, to address this, to minimize those impacts is our, I believe, task and job to do. And to tell decision makers how to do it. It's possible. We definitely, that's why I mentioned this long story. We somehow succeed on innovative way to establish trust, and the trust is the most important on transboundary level to plan transboundary measures to reduce negative impacts of pollution and climate change to the water bodies, which are shared water bodies, surface and underground. And we are very successful on that in Sava River Basin. Slovenia is the depository country of framework agreement for the Sava River Basin, where we somehow, after really long skepticism, succeed to work together with on the expert level, and we are really efficient now with the first Sava River Basin Management Plan, flood risk management plan, and even very modern tool for the early warning system for the floods protection.
And here I will stop you because you are speaking about a specific solution, and I would like to get the answer to the broader question. Can you actually prove to the decision makers that we can do something? Because what we are asking is make a lot of economy adjustment, which will cost a lot now, for something which might have impact in 20 years, 40 years, whatever. Can you prove it? That if we do something now, we will get better in 20 years?
Definitely. First, old story, it's pollution. Reduce it and you will maybe drink water which is now not drinkable in very short time. Just do it. Just perform the measures on the ground. Second is let's plan and do the measures to retain the water on let's say, nature-based solution way, and you will get back the life of the, let's say, nature, biodiversity, and on the end, also the water resources, quantity and quality of them. All this we can do. It's possible, but you cannot do it alone. You can, of course, do it first in the local level with your partners, and on transboundary level, upstream, downstream, with your neighboring country, downstream, upstream cooperation. This is the way to go. Nobody can do it alone.
Wonderful. This is a great introduction to our next panelist, but do stay prepared for a question about the water which is not flowing, the water which is in the air, that has there's even more transboundary. Our next panelist is the ambassador of Republic to Slovenia to Germany, good friend, Ana Polak-Petric, who I hope will become the member of the UN International Law Commission. And as we know, when we face a difficult problem in the international level, then eventually an international law is adopted, and that eventually might take decades. Where are we, and where will we eventually be in the question of water and climate, the connection between climate effects and the water supply?
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you, of course, Mr. Gajic, for inviting me to this panel, because I'm not a practitioner, I'm not an expert on these very concrete questions which were now just mentioned, but of course I am looking into the international legal aspects of environmental protection, and I will speak a little bit about this. Thank you also, Dr. Musar, for this question posed. And if you allow me, I will just mention before I start, I would like to greet also Ambassador Miškova, who is standing back there. But I'm very proud that the Ministry of Foreign and European Affairs of Slovenia has put water diplomacy and engagement of Slovenia in this question very high on our priority agenda. And thanks to Ambassador Miškova, this has happened, I would say, quite successfully in the last few years. You asked me, where are we? So Of course, we all observe what's going on around us in the international community, and of course we see that there are certain developments which are worrying, that there are certain developments where we see that states would like to resort rather to power than rules. We see that there is a certain backsliding when we speak about the respect for international law, multilateralism, solidarity among states, and of course I could go on. If I limit myself to the topic of today's discussion, so environmental protection, we can see that only United States alone in the last year announced the withdrawal from 66 international organizations, treaties, and bodies, many of them directly connected to international environmental law. We also see that the COP meetings in the recent years, states were unable to agree on any significant legally binding commitments in international, in environmental protection. So these trends, of course, we see they're quite clear and are worrying. But today I would actually like to introduce a more positive aspect. I'm always an optimist, so I will be an optimist always also today. And I would like to argue that the field of environmental protection is actually one of the areas of international law where we see quite significant progressive development, and that the focus of the discussion is more and more in the recent year turning to the protection of individuals rather than states' rights. And now, if you allow me, I would like to make 3 very concrete examples of this argument. Firstly, the recognition of the right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment as a human right. So I think that also our ombudswoman, Dr. Drenik, spoke a little bit about this. So also at the international level, it is more and more recognized that this right is a human right. So this right foresees the obligation of that all individuals should have access to clean air, safe and sufficient water, healthy ecosystem, biodiversity, non-toxic environments, and so on and so on. So although this right has not been yet legally or adopted in any legally binding convention or document, it represents definitely one of the most important progressive developments in the field of human rights in the recent years. This right has been recognized in the UN Human Rights Council, but also in the UN General Assembly, where it received the support of 161 states and no votes against, which shows a very, very clear agreement among international community that this right to clean, healthy, and sustainable environment should be recognized as a human right. I would also like to underline the role of Slovenia in this process, which was one of the first countries promoting the recognition of this right in the UN framework. And as more than 150 states already recognize some form of such right of individuals in their constitution, legislation, or court decisions, and with such a strong support in the international community, I argue that it is just a matter of time that this right will be codified and become a part of a binding international legal framework probably in some recent future. Second point or second argument which I would like to make or draw your attention to, that sort of we are on the right track, are the 2 advisory opinions issued by the 2 very important international courts. First, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea, ITLOS, in Hamburg, delivered a historic opinion declaring that greenhouse gas emissions contribute pollution of the maritime environment, which was a very important decision made by this court because it is linking environmental law with maritime law, and it underlines that obligations under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea, UNCLOS, exist independently of the Paris Agreement and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change. Even more important, that in 2025, also the International Court of Justice in Hague delivered an advisory opinion which could be, in my opinion, without a doubt, seen as one of the most significant developments in international environmental law in the recent years. This process in front of the question which was posed to the International Court of Justice was initiated by mostly small states. Vanuatu was one of the leading countries in this process, and also Slovenia was supporting this process from its beginning. And so the question was, what kind of obligations states have in environmental law? This court proceedings was significant also because 98 states and many international organizations have made deliberations in front of the court, which I think was a record so far in the history of the court, which shows how important this question is for international community. And not to go into the details, I will just say the most important, the ICJ, so the court concluded that states have binding obligations under international law to protect the climate system from greenhouse gas emissions. These obligations, and this is very important, arise not only from climate treaties, but also from customary international law, human rights law, and environmental law principles. States must exercise due diligence to prevent significant environmental harm and cooperate, very important, duty cooperate, and failure to take appropriate climate action may constitute an internationally wrongful act and trigger state responsibility, which is of course a very, very important conclusion. So although advisory opinions of the international courts are not legally binding, they represent a very strong legal and moral authority when it comes to the interpretation of international law. And then the last point, I know I'm already speaking too much, but lawyers always do, so forgive me for that. The last point is that also the International Law Commission is dealing with many issues in the field of environmental protection. So the International Law Commission is a body which is assisting General Assembly in producing drafts of, let's say, future conventions and future legal texts. And one of the topics which I would like to mention, which is very recent, is the sea level rise and the international legal effects of the sea level rise, specifically, of course, on low-lying coastal countries and islands, which are becoming less suitable or even unsuitable for habitation, and we can realistically envisage partial or complete depopulation in the future. So, of course, the major question, the major legal question in this case is, if this occurs, and it seems that it will occur in the future in some form, what does this mean for the statehood of these states? So if their territory is diminished, if, of course, the population is leaving because it's not habitable anymore, what does this mean? Does this country still remain a subject of international law? Can it still remain the member of international organizations? What happens to the rights of the people? What happens to the citizens of the people who live there? And so on and so forth. And the International Law Commission in this regard made a very important proposal to states, which I think should be accepted in the future, is that the legal stability, certainty, and predictability must be preserved, and that these states, although they are so significantly affected by climate change, need to retain their statehood, sovereignty, and rights. And what is very important, that the individuals, when we speak about the individual rights, their human dignity must be respected, and states need to cooperate among each other to reach this. This is, of course, very important, not because the ILC is deliberating on some very concrete problems which these states are facing in the future, but I also think because this is a very important matter when we speak about maintaining peace and security and preventing conflicts, and also because it is a matter of justice. These are the states which have not contributed to the climate change, or very little, but they will bear the effects of climate change enormously. Even to be, let's say, erased from the globe. So with this I will conclude, but I will just allow me, Dr. Musar, just to say these 3 examples, I think, prove that we are moving in the right direction, that international law is facing this problem, that of course states do not want to agree, especially the major polluters do not want to agree to any progressive development, but slowly we are going there.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Petric. While I'm asking for clarifications on your topics, I will just inform the technicians that the next one will be Madam Al-Haji, so please connect us to Kuwait. If we start from the bottom, so you are saying that basically the state can exist without having land?
Well,
or that the opinion of the current opinion is going in that direction?
No, the problem is that the state which already exists and already has its rights and obligations and its statehood is facing a real problem if, of course, it loses a big portion of its territory and a big portion of its population. What happens? And if we would accept that this kind of, let's say that the climate change would have that kind of effect, that the state could lose its sovereignty and statehood, I think we would be dealing with a very, very problematic, let's say, conclusion, no? Because that would mean that, that our own actions, or let's say the actions of human beings, can have a direct impact on the statehood of states which have nothing to do with the climate change. So I think, of course, you can just simplify it as that, but this is, of course, a real problem.
So this was a very long version of yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I know that for the lawyers it's sometimes difficult not to put a lot of disclaimers then. And I would ask about the second advisory opinions. We don't have an international law, but basically you're saying that the courts are tweaking the existing law to cover the topics. Is that about
No,
correct?
actually we do have existing law. We of course have international conventions which have been concluded in the past in many in any issues of the environmental protection. Of course we know this. But also we should not forget the customary international law, which is if I simplify it, is what states do. So what is the state practice? And this practice states understand as their legal obligation. Mm-hmm. And of course, they don't need to be written anywhere. It's a practice, it's a custom. And the court, of course, has looked into this very in detail, what these obligations are. And the second question, the second point which I would like to make is that we have a huge amount of rules in human rights. And today was already stressed. How can we have the realization of basic human rights without healthy, clean, and sustainable environment? More and more we all agree that this is not possible. So this is interconnected.
Right, I'm asking a bit more questions to you because you will have some other duties at 11. So let me ask another question. While you said that we don't really have a convention which would make access to water as a human right, plus the clean environment, etc., there are enough opinions that this actually is a human right. So if someone goes to weaponize water, which is happening and has been happening throughout the history, would you then say that it might be considered as an international crime?
I mean, we're definitely moving into that direction, right? So if we say that, I would say that probably this right to clean and healthy and sustainable environment is probably right in making, or right which is being developed, let's say. And of course, once when we recognize that it is adopted, either as a part of customary international or either as being put in one of the legally binding conventions, of course, it will be like with any other right, if states do not respect it. We know that that's a breach of international law and their obligations.
Thank you very much.
That's why states are so reluctant to make this final step.
Yeah, because it comes with responsibility, I understand. I hope we will see you in the UN Commission in a year's time or something like that.
In a year, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Al-Haji, welcome. I hope you are safe in Kuwait. I know the country has been under a lot of pressure, including the military attacks in the recent days. And under these conditions, Kuwaiti Ministry of Electricity and Water and Renewable Energy is retaining the supply of water under very difficult circumstances. How are you doing that? We need sound.
Been responsible for supplying water in Kuwait. It's my pleasure to be with you today in 11th Bled Water Forum, and I would like to presenting the impact of climate change and the growing demand for water in Kuwait. This topic is very critical in Kuwait, and I will it's very critical importance as Kuwait continues face increasing challenges related to water security, driven by climate change, population growth, and rising water consumption. During this presentation, I will discuss the key challenges affecting water resources in Kuwait, their implications of sustainability, and the measures needed to ensure secure for sustainable water in the future. And I will begin now, if you don't mind. For the other slide, please. I will share the screen with you now.
Right, have you lost the connection?
No, it's okay for me. Excuse me, the previous slide, if you not mind. Yes, this one. I will begin. Okay. Kuwait is one of the countries most affected by water scarcity. This image highlights the key challenges such as severe water scarcity, the desert climate, limited freshwater resources, and the impacts of climate change. These factors make it difficult for Kuwait to secure natural water supplies. On the right side, as we see, additional pressure, including the rising temperatures, low rainfall, and rapid population growth, all of which increase water demand while reducing water availability. Overall, the image compares the stable water management is essential to ensure water security and support future generation in Kuwait. This image, as you see, climate change has had an important impact on Kuwait environment and water resources. Over the years, temperatures have continued to rise, particularly during the summer months, leading to higher evaporation rates and increased water consumption. In addition, as shown in this slide, Kuwait experienced a wide variation in temperatures throughout the years. The previous slide, if you not mind, please. As shown in the slide, we experienced wide variation in temperatures throughout the year. During the summer season, from May to September, daytime temperature range between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius and may exceed 50 degrees in some areas during July and August. On the other hand, winter temperatures are much milder, ranging between 50 and 25 degrees during the day, while night temperature can fall below 10 degrees. These climate conditions highlight the growing need for effective and sustainable water management to ensure long-term water security in Kuwait. The other slide, please. This chart shows the average, the previous one, please. This chart Yes, this chart shows the average monthly rainfall in Kuwait. As we can see, rainfall is concentrated mainly during the winter season, particularly between December and March. January records the highest average rainfall at 28.4 millimeters, followed by February and December. On the other hand, rainfall is extremely low during the summer months from June to August, where it is almost not existent. The total rainfall during the 2024 and 2025 rainy season was approximately 106.8 millimeters, which is slightly below the national average. The other slide, please. This slide illustrates how water consumption in Kuwait varies between summer and winter due to seasonal climatic conditions. During the summer months, temperature can exceed 50 degrees Celsius, leading to a significant increase in water demand. Water is needed not only for drinking and personal use, but also for cooling system, air conditioning, and irrigation activities. As a result, water consumption reached its highest level during this period, and as shown in the chart, the highest quarterly water consumption in 2024 was recorded in the third quarter. And on the other hand, water consumption decreases during the winter months because of the cooler temperature and reducing cooling requirements. This seasonal variation highlights the strong relationship between climate conditions and the water demand in Kuwait. Next, please. Water management, as we shown in this slide, as we can see, water management is one of the most important strategies issue in the state of Kuwait due to the limited natural water resources and the country's heavy reliance on seawater desalination to meet the needs of the population. With population growth and urban and economic expansion, the demand for water has continued to decrease, leading Kuwait to adopt advanced policies and plans to manage water resources and ensure their sustainability. This diagram illustrates the integrated approach to sustainable freshwater management in Kuwait. As we can see, Kuwait relies mainly on seawater desalination and its main source of fresh water. Therefore, water management begins with the production through desalination plants, followed by safe storage and strategic reservoirs to ensure a reliable water supply. The next stage is distribution, where water is delivered to consumers through an extensive network of pipelines and pumping stations across the country. To ensure sustainability, equal importance is given to water conservation and efficiency by promoting responsible water use, reducing losses, and improving system performance. Water quality is also continuously monitored and treated to meet health and safety standards. In addition, wastewater is controlled and treated, allowing part of it to be used or reused for irrigation, landscaping, and some industrial purposes. Finally, all these activities are supported by effective planning, governance, research, and public awareness program to ensure long-term water security. Next, please. As I mentioned before, Kuwait relies heavily on seawater desalination plants to provide drinking water and meet daily water demand due to its limited natural freshwater resources. Kuwait is considered a global pioneer in this field. Today, 8 major desalination plants operated by the Ministry of Electricity and Water in Kuwait are located along the coastline, including Asar, South and North Station, Doha West and West, Sabiya, Shweikh, and Sheba. Together, these plants have a total production capacity approximately 682.8 million imperial gallons per day. Next, please. The main desalination technologies used in Kuwait are multi-stage flash desalination and reverse osmosis. In addition, multi-effect desalination technology is used in Asar North Station. The most widely used is multi-stage flash, which is highly reliable and suitable for the Gulf conditions. Another technology is MED, which uses that more efficiently and therefore consumes less energy. Okay, I'll try to speak. Okay. Most desalination plants in Kuwait operate under dual production system generation, both electricity and desalinated water at the same time, which improves overall efficiency and reduces energy consumption. Next, please. To ensure water security and meet future demand, the ministry has developed a strategy to increase freshwater storage capacity as a reserve for emergencies and peak consumption periods. This plan includes the construction of reservoirs with different capacities across various locations in Kuwait. Next, please. As a part of Kuwait's strategy to diversify water production sources and enhance water security, Kuwait also uses groundwater resources. One important method is the desalination of brackish groundwater using reverse osmosis technology. In this process, groundwater is treated through filtration and then passed through special membranes that remove salts and impurities. This technology lowers energy consumption. Brackish water desalination is widely used in Kuwait in agriculture, industry, and remote area. Next, please.
Madam Al-Haji.
Yes.
I'm sorry to have to interrupt you, but first, Ambassador Petric has now a session with the delegates from African countries in a separate room. Go. And the second, Madam Al-Haji, I would just like to ask you, how vulnerable are the water supply technologies in Kuwait, or in other words, was there an attack on the water supply? Because this is also a security question.
No, there's no attack on the water supply in Kuwait. All the plants are running smoothly, and the water supply from the distillation plants, from seawater in the distillation plants, and it is with high quality standard.
Right. Well, I wish you to stay safe and that the water supply of Kuwait also stays safe in this difficult situation in the region. And now I would like to turn to Veronika Matushna. I hope I pronounced the name somewhere there, who manages, among other things, also the joint bodies, I understand, which take care of cross-boundary waters in Czech Republic. Do you have any advice for us?
Yes, thank you for inviting me and for just being here. I'm already inspired, and this is panel one, so yeah, thank you very much. As you mentioned today, you always like to learn anything new, but I'm here to actually say something very, very old, because sometimes, and in Europe, in Czech Republic mainly, we take some things for granted. We have very old treaties to cooperate with our neighboring countries. We have established like bilateral commissions for cooperation, and sometimes because it's too old, it was established and it works, then people think, okay, maybe we don't need it. And then suddenly, you know, floods come, and this is not time when you establish a working joint body. This is the time when you use the one that is already working. So my message would be that we should take care of we should establish joint bodies to tackle the future problems, and we should take a good care of them, which is difficult in times when you have, you know, shortage in budget and you have new emerging issues coming. But still, it's important to find the time to talk to your neighboring countries and to the countries in the sharing the watersheds, because basically, as was mentioned many times today, water does not know and does not respect the boundaries. We basically have to share the water and the responsibilities.
This is a very good point. A joint commission on one water body is actually taking care of a small part of the whole system. Yeah. And we mostly forget about it until there is a problem, and then we renew it. And this somehow works. We have seen it also in Slovenia with Transboundary Commission on Drava River, for example. You mentioned there are problems, specifics of landlocked countries.
Yes, of course, because it's difficult for a landlocked country to imagine or to persuade the people, well, we all know it, there is a river flowing from source to the sea. But when you're a landlocked country and you're like upstream country, as the Czech Republic, we have like most of the rivers flow away from us to our neighboring countries. There is almost none like really big river coming in. We got our water from precipitation. So it's sometimes difficult to stay connected to the sea that we actually deliver the water and what is in the water to the downstream countries.
I understand as an upstream country you might be challenged that you are not letting enough water to another country or that you are letting too much water to another country.
Exactly. And of course inhabitants would like to see that we keep all the water for us because of the droughts coming. Like this year we already experienced some fires. We are in extremely low levels of water. So yeah, why don't we keep it? Maybe because, you know, some downstream countries do have some cooling systems depending on the flow of the water. It's so amazingly interconnected. But, yeah.
Exactly. And then there is sea in the next country or even the next country. Do you think it is possible to make a joint body of joint bodies, to somehow connect those bodies which are taking care of individual water sources to one much bigger body which could actually be present from the source to the sea and cross several boundaries at the same time? Has it been attempted?
I think this is the ideal state what you've described. Basically in the Czech Republic we have like bilateral commissions with Poland, with Slovakia, with Austria and with Germany, yes, for neighbors. And then we are parts of the international commissions as for Danube, Oder River and Elbe River. And in ideal state, the people would at least be the same in the commissions or meet regularly and keep exchanging the information. Because in these bilateral commissions, you deal with like really daily business, like if you need a wastewater treatment plant to be approved in the Czech Republic, that is affecting a Polish water body, for example, this would be dealt in this bilateral commission. But this is not of the interest of the whole, for example, Danube River Basin. But then there are like more severe things, such as, for example, floods in 2024. Very like small part of Czech Republic was affected severely, but we shared this problem with Poland again because that was the river flowing to Poland. So, yeah.
Thank you. I will refer back to Mr. Britzel. Do you think this approach might help us covering from the source to the sea?
Definitely. We are colleagues in the Commission for the Protection Danube River, ICPDR, and just to remind all of us, okay, it was the decision of this commission in December last year that we should invest to enhance cooperation Danube Black Sea, and its resolution on that adopted in Vienna in December last year to enhance inter-regional programs to take care or enhance the management with the coastal and marine resources of the Black Sea. But this is possible when we are reducing upstream the pressure and the impacts on our water bodies, streams, lakes, and rivers. And this is what brings us together. And this is happening. This is measurable. Thanks to this commission, International Commission for the Danube River Basin, we reduced in the last 20 years together with common action, thanks to UNDP and European investment funds to the wastewater treatment plants in the EU countries and the broader region, for more than 50% the load from the Danube River Basin to the Black Sea.
Thank you. It's sometimes counterintuitive for us to feel responsible for the Black Sea, but apparently the solution is talking to each other, and you two are already doing that. Huh?
Yes. And having
Please connect us to Mr. Safarov, in Azerbaijan.
Because when the resources are always scarce, and I need to persuade the people in power in my country. I need the colleagues from downstream countries to help me, with the arguments why we should take care of the Black Sea, which is that far, far away, when we have our own troubles and issues to tackle.
Mr. Safaro, I would be quite afraid watching the Caspian Sea in the present circumstances, with neighboring countries, which some of them have a really severe drought problems already, like Iran. How do you attempt to coordinate the efforts to keep Caspian Sea both at the same level and clean?
Good morning, dear excellencies, dear colleagues. Thank you so much for making possible to share our problems with our European colleagues. Actually, if possible, it will be good to share my presentation. If not, I can speak, I can talk, which is best for you. Let me do. Where is it? Second. Sharing is not turned. Okay, I will talk. No problem. So, the Caspian Sea is the biggest lake in the world, having a lot of different features as the sea. And we really feel a big problem with the climate change, its impacts on the regional territories. And from our research, we found that over the region of the Caspian Sea, at least, for example, Caspian Sea as its lake, it feeds up with the water balance components, income and outcome parts of the Caspian Sea. And coming water mostly comes from the Volga River. 80% of the water coming and maintaining the level of the Caspian Sea is the Volga River. And because of the climate change impacts and as a result accelerating human impacts, sea level from the mid of the 19th until now has decreased over the Caspian Sea for 2.5 meters, and about 1.30 meters of this is a part of the Volga River. Reason for that is that regional temperature over the basin of the Caspian Sea increased for between 2 and 3 degrees, which resulted a lot of increase of evaporation, a lot of increase of water demand, and finally, water usage affected the decline of the water. Another problematic happening with the Caspian Sea, based on our research, is that wind directions, resulting winds mostly, started change over the surface of the Caspian Sea. I mean, problematic of the water issue in the Caspian Sea region, one is main provider of the water, 80, sometimes even 85% of the water coming Volga River basin. And another side is the evaporation, increasing evaporation over the surface of the Caspian Sea. And based on our research and actual research with our foreign European colleagues, we found that eastward, it's a latitudinal wind started replacing, pushing the humid cold weather from the surface of the Caspian Sea. And the resulting wind, we call it, it's something that not only just the wind speed, mostly direction of the winds where they come from has changed over the surface of the Caspian Sea. Humid cold weather was replaced by dry and very hot weather coming from Central Asia, increasing evaporation, increasing the wave system over the surface of Caspian Sea, and this takes another part of the decline of the sea. And another problem I heard about air quality. This hot wind brings a lot of dust and pollution from the Central Asia to the Caspian region, which will cause later health problems and agriculture cases related problems. So over the whole basin of the Caspian Sea, we can observe increasing temperatures and based our results from joint research with Iranian, Azerbaijani, and Russian colleagues, we made several maps, some results that starting from the Iranian mountains, regional temperature in Iranian mountains increased for 3 degrees. In Azerbaijan territory, it's about 1.4, 1.6, depending the territorial like mountain or plain areas. Over the surface of the Caspian Sea, temperature not increased so much, but winds doing their work. And based on this, COP event like happened in Baku and its prospective COP31, I think that will be good opportunity for riparian countries and other international community come across together and find out how possible to accelerate carbon emission as much as possible. And another issue also you asked about pollution. Well, we started this research on plastics, and we found that pollution, oil pollution or plastic pollution, it exists. Problematic also is that not only that their concentration is too much and in the form of the microplastic or microplastic, they penetrate to the organisms of the fisheries or others and finally come to the health cases for population. But on the other hand, they kill also animals. I mean, birds, snakes, they stuck in the sea with the in connection with the, for example, fish nets. They die, they stuck and die, and the huge amounts of the fisheries that are released to the Caspian Sea later facing with these problems, finally they die, and it causes a lot of economical problems, also food security problems, and general case is that if sea level decline will continue in this way, it will affect a lot of food security and health case issues in addition to economical problems.
We are aware of the problems, and you have outlined them very nicely, and we have seen examples where it can lead, RLC is possibly too harsh, an example, but we are really interested in solutions. If you had all the resources in the world, what 3 measures would you do immediately? Never that you are not representing government of all 4 countries surrounding the Caspian Sea, but what would you do immediately?
Efficient use of water resources, precision agriculture. We have urgently start the efficient use of water. It's already started, but probably all countries, all riparian countries have to do this. For example, from our one research about the Volga region, we found that about 29-30 cubic kilometers of water has left basin of the Volga. It means that 7 centimeters of the water for the Caspian Sea. So
sea is the key word here in predicting the sources. I will now turn to Madam Madden from Turkey. Efficiency. I mean, you are in the region which is already severely affected by the climate change. The river flows are declining.
Yeah.
What are you doing, or what would you do in the similar situation? If it doesn't work, just take another one.
Yes, yeah, okay. What we are doing in the Middle East especially, are you asking? Yeah.
No, actually, in Turkey. If you want to be responsible for the whole Middle East,
yeah,
welcome.
no, but Turkey, when I share what's the Turkey's perspective, also we have a role to disseminate our knowledge about these issues, so we try to make it in the Middle East also. I'm not talking about the transboundary cooperation, also regional cooperation is a must for the water secures. And from the Turkey perspectives, there are lots of integrated approaches, as you know, and you mentioned like source to sea, IWRM, Wi-Fi Nexus, river basin water management, offer a useful perspective for understanding the interconnections between river basins, groundwater systems, coastal zones, as you mentioned, and ecosystems. And also, all we are aware, the climate change has a huge impact on the water resources, especially, I'm not talking about the 2026, but last 5 years, since 2019, we have a long period drought, and we have, in a regional level, we have a great water scarcity problem in the region. But as a Turkey, the key point of the such responses shouldn't replace basin-level cooperation and the role of the riparian cooperation in the especially transboundary river basin. They should rather complement existing mechanisms, help make them more coherent, practical, and climate resilient in our issue. I would like to give example from the Turkey-Iraq example, because it maybe you can see at the newspapers with the headlines, especially water issues between Turkey and Iraq. But in the recent years, especially, we have a growing water cooperation between Turkey and Iraq. And two countries have significantly strengthening their institutional dialogue through the establishment of the Permanent Joint Committee on Water. Also, I'm one of the members of this committee. It's an official committee, and we signed an framework agreement on cooperation in the field of water in 2024 with Iraq. And this process has created a structured platform for a regular dialogue, joint technical work, capacity building activities. I think it is a must, because we need to talk with a common language. We need to have the same mindset, because I think in the global level, if we couldn't talk the same language, especially about the water, because there are lots of definitions, there are lots of now new concepts, but we have to define together in the same level, maybe in the same book. So creating a common language, I think these capacity building activities are very important, and especially under these climate change impacts, water efficiency is a must for all the riparian countries, maybe not only the, yes.
And here I will, yes, you emphasize that talking to each other is important, and you are talking to each other when it comes to Iraq. Yeah. When you go to Iraq, and you see Euphrates River, which we all know from history, it's kind of disappointing. It's not much of a river, really. And that's partly due to human activities in agriculture and partly due to climate change. And we have a question from the audience also. What water resilience measures have delivered the greatest impact? Because efficiency is certainly the goal, but what specific measure did you try and see and you saw a positive result?
Yeah, first of all, frankly, I have to say, first of all, political will is a key point for the countries. Yes, there are lots of legal documents at the table, they are a great framework, but you don't have any political will, there is no implementation. So first of all, political will and common concerns, of course. Turkey and Iraq, how they come together? Because we have common concerns, especially about the water resources. Euphrates and Tigris River Basin. These are the main river basins for Turkey, for Iraq, and also for Syria. You know, because of the Syria political situation since 2011, it's not easy to come together because of the political instability in the region has a negative impact of the continuity of the institutions. So Turkey and Iraq come together under the same political will. Yes, water efficiency is important, especially in agriculture sector. In Turkey, we have a campaign on this. In a national level, also we share our experiences with Iraq and maybe in the next feature with Syria, because we use most of our water for the agriculture. And especially implementing modern water irrigation technologies and using the closed pipe systems are very important for the using the water in an efficient way, because especially in Iraq and in south part of the Syria, the evaporation rate is very high. When you make flood irrigation, you also lose lots of water when you irrigated the plants. And also in our agricultural law, we now selected the products due to the water potential of the basin, maybe region. For example, if you don't have any water, you couldn't produce rice. This is the reality. But I totally understand, because in our region, especially in neighborhood region, Iraq, Syria, and Iran, there are always conflicts, there are always war, and they have great concerns about the food security. And rice is very important for them. This is from their culture. This is one of the main dish in their kitchen. So first of all, we are starting with the water efficiency in agriculture sector, and then step by step. Yes.
I'm very grateful that you brought this to attention. Water security equals food security equals security.
Yeah.
And this, I think, is a very important message. And now we will turn to South America to see if we have a different message from Paraguay.
Yes. Hello. Yes. Thank you so much. Good morning to the moderator, Alex Musar, all the distinguished fellow panelists and honored guests. On behalf of the government of Paraguay, I would like to sincerely thank the government of Slovenia and all the organizers of the Bled Water Forum for the invitation and for creating this valuable space for dialogue and cooperation. Let me say that it is an honor for Paraguay to participate in this forum and share our experience on the important connection between water, climate change, and resilience. Today, climate change is increasingly felt through water-related challenges, including floods, droughts, and impacts on water quality and availability. So in this context, forums like this are essential to exchange experiences, learn from one another, and strengthen international cooperation. As Veronica just mentioned a few minutes ago, landlocked countries have our own specific problems, and we can really learn from each other. So we really appreciate this opportunity to share perspectives and work together towards solutions that help build more resilient communities and ecosystems in the face of climate change. Now I will move forward to my presentation. I will ask the production to show it. Thank you very much.
Paraguay is a landlocked country located in the heart of South America. Although we do not have access to the sea, water strongly shapes our territory, economy, and development. The country is part of La Plata Basin and has major water systems such as the Paraguay and Paraná rivers, as well as the Guarani Aquifer, one of the largest underground freshwater reserves on the planet. Water also supports a large part of our economy and energy system. Paraguay generates almost all of its electricity from hydropower, mainly through the Itaipú and Yacyretá binational dams. At the same time, key sectors such as agriculture, river transport, industry, and drinking water supply depend directly on the stability of our water system. However, this water abundance does not mean in the absence of vulnerability. In recent years, Paraguay has increasingly experienced the impacts of climate change through water. Although the country contributes only around 0.06% of global greenhouse gas emissions, it remains highly vulnerable to climate-related impacts. Long droughts have affected water supply for rural communities, while also impacting navigation, production, and energy generation. The historic low water levels of the Paraguay River recorded in 2024 had direct effects on river transport, water supply, and the national economy, showing the country's strong dependence on water resources. At the same time, extreme events and floods generate economic losses, environmental degradation, and especially affect vulnerable populations. In addition, water quality continues to deteriorate progressively. In this context, the water and sanitation sector plays a central role as a climate adaptation tool. Resilient infrastructure, long-term planning, and the integration of climate criteria into public investments are essential to reduce vulnerabilities and strengthen the resilience of our cities and communities. For this reason, the Ministry of Public Works and Communications, through the Directorate of Drinking Water and Sanitation, is promoting strategic investments that integrate climate adaptation, sustainability, and institutional strengthening. This means not only expanding water and sanitation coverage, but also developing infrastructure capable of responding to future climate scenarios. Despite Paraguay's important water resources, significant challenges remain in the water and sanitation sector. Today, around 86% of the population has access to drinking water services, while sewage coverage and wastewater treatment coverage remain considerably lower. This represents both a challenge and opportunity to accelerate resilient and sustainable investments. Currently, Paraguay is advancing important water and sanitation programs, with support from multilateral organizations such as the Inter-American Development Bank, the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, and the Japan International Cooperation Agency, including the projects presented in the previous slides. These investments represent an opportunity to incorporate new tools for climate resilience, monitoring, and sector planning. To illustrate how Paraguay is integrating water, climate, and resilience into public investments, I would like to share an important case study. One of the main examples of this approach is the Ipacaraí Lake Basin Sanitation Program. Ipacaraí Lake is one of the most emblematic water bodies in Paraguay, with major environmental, social, and economic importance. The basin connects 21 cities and faces strong urban and environmental pressure. The program is expected to benefit more than 800,000 people across the basin, and for many years, the lake has faced challenges related to pollution, unplanned urban growth, and untreated wastewater discharges. In response to this situation, Paraguay is promoting an integrated sanitation program financed by the Inter-American Development Bank through the IDB Climate Initiative. The program represents an investment of approximately $154 million and has an implementation period of 6 years. The program includes investments in sewerage systems and wastewater treatment plants for the 3 most populated cities in the basin, with the objective of improving water quality and reducing pollution. However, one of the most important aspects of the program is that it is not limited to traditional infrastructure. The IDB climate approach allows the integration of components related to climate adaptation, biodiversity, and resilience. This includes actions related to hydrological and water quality monitoring, institutional strengthening, ecosystem restoration, and the development of nature-based solutions. The program also seeks to strengthen institutional coordination and improve long-term basin management capacities. The program also includes a long-term vision aimed at strengthening the capacities of the water and sanitation sector to integrate climate criteria into future investments. To conclude, I would like to leave 4 final messages. Water must be at the center of climate action. Resilience depends not only on infrastructure, but also on planning, governance, and cooperation. Developing countries need stronger access to climate finance and technical cooperation to accelerate resilient investments. And finally, investing in water and sanitation means investing in health, development, stability, and the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Crosa. If we share the same problems, that we might also share the same solutions eventually. This, I think, is a message. I would just like to ask for clarification. You mentioned climate adaptation. Is this adaptation to climate, or are you actually able to adapt climate or microclimate somehow?
No, it's adapting infrastructure and all our actions to the climate change that we are facing already.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for this message. We are running over time, but then we started with 20 minutes delay. We will just ask the final few questions to the panelists here. And let's start with Mrs. Matyushna. How effective is the implementation of Water Framework Directive with respect to standing waters in Czechia? Very specific question.
Very specific. I would like to say we are very successful, but of course we are not.
I mean, that effective, that effective.
I mean, it's that effective, but we would need this effective.
Right. Thank you. I will ask Madam Madden about the declarations and commitments. In transboundary water basins, you certainly have to make a lot of, well, starts with declaration and commitments. And what is the biggest obstacle of turning that into action?
Yes, especially in the global discourse, I'm talking about the transboundary water issues.
Well,
in their discourse,
try thinking about your specific field. Turkey and Iraq. What is the biggest obstacle to have the effect?
The biggest obstacle, I think, we try to get it, maybe we are if we are talking about the priority of the investment can be a problem. In the discourses, water always at the top level, especially if we are talking about the Iraq and the Syria and Iraq. But in the national budget, when we try to understand how much investment, the investment rate always smaller. The discourse is big, but the investment is smaller, and the other priority is always much more important when we are talking about the water, but nowadays the investment is the discussion point between the countries.
Investment?
Yeah.
Great. So what you need is an event which draws investment, but is not exactly a flood or a fire.
Oh no, flood is, of course, this year, last 5 years, water scarcity is problematic, and Iraq and Turkey come together. We try to operate the dams with discussing with the Iraq, because especially their agriculture period is different our period, and the main issue of the dams, especially in the Euphrates and Tigris, we are producing hydroelectricity because we are not fossil resources. We have no fossil resources, as you know. So if we are talking about the energy security, the dams are very important for us. And when we produce the electricity, also we release the water directly to Iraq and Syria. But in the drought period, it's not easy to produce hydroelectricity because it's very technical operational thing. You couldn't decrease the level of the dams. But with the bilateral, with the Iraq, with the negotiations, Turkey tried to do their best under these conditions, and we release water to Iraq, especially in the summer session, in the irrigation period. In the flood session, this year there are lots of floods. We try to operate the dams, and Iraq tried to, also Syria has the similar problems. But, you know, because of the conflicts and the war period, there are some damaged.
We understand the problems.
Yeah.
If you have flood this year, do you have bigger budget next year?
No, this is not about this issue.
I'm just asking,
yeah.
Because we experienced that.
Yeah. The budget, especially the budget for the needs of the rehabilitation of the networks, water infrastructures, and damaged water infrastructure, especially in Iraq and Syria.
Now you're almost speaking as a lawyer. Was that a yes or no? Or maybe?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Sorry. And finally, Mr. Britzel, if we meet again at the Bled Water Forum in 2030, what measurable achievement would you like to see that shows we have successfully strengthened the water climate? You have one wish only. I'm not a goldfish to give you three, just one.
To develop those, let's say, gathering into the action on the ground and to present the best cases of the efficient adaptation to the climate change on bilateral level.
I'm happy with this answer. To provide best examples. That's why we are here, to see examples from other countries, to exchange information, and I hope we will see that in other panels as well. Thank you to the panelists, and now I would like to invite you, thank you to the panelists. And now I would like to invite Mr. Gajic and Mr. Taujl, the representative of International Center for Public Enterprises, to sign yet another cooperation agreement.
The signing of the agreement will be done later, as we are missing one person. But I invite you all to the lobby to a coffee break, and we'll meet back here at 12:10. So noon and 10 minutes.